All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now we're going to talk, this is a great topic, okay? Now we're going to talk about the Israel Adesanya and Whitaker fight that's upcoming and Marvin Vettori turning down the backup slot. But what I really want to talk about is what the backup slot actually allows you to do strategically as the company, okay? And so I'm going to talk about why Vettori turned it down, who I think should be the backup, exactly why, and then I'm going to explain what this backup slot does for the organization that is almost like a cheat code, relating to all the stuff that we've talked about in the last couple of days about the tier system and setting up all that stuff. Like, this is actually, like, I'm actually really excited to do this video. So just bear with me. If it doesn't sound like it's going to be interesting, I promise it'll be solid. I don't know how I'm going to get anyone to click on it because it's not really a very clickbaity title, you know, but whatever. Anyway, if you like the content, subscribe, ring the bell. Actually, help me out. If you guys think this is a good video, share it around. I would greatly appreciate that. So Marvin Vettori was offered the backup slot for Whitaker and Israel Adesanya, right? And he turned it down. And I completely understand why, right? If you put yourself in the position of a fighter, right? Like, so actually, so fighters that are watching this, or even just people who are athletes, just try to actually imagine the mindset that you're in when you're in a training camp, okay? Like, these guys train all the time. It's not like, most guys are training all the time, but it's not like everyday training when you have a fight camp. Like, you're training 2-3 times a day. It's a totally different universe. It's constant. You can't hang out with your family. It's just like, it's all encompassing. It is a serious commitment. You're punishing yourself every day. And, you know, and the mindset that you're in is, I'm doing this because I'm fighting that guy on this date at the end of it. And so it's like, if I don't put myself through this, then he's putting himself through this, and he's gonna beat the shit out of me in front of 30,000, in front of a million people who are watching. And so it's like the motivation it comes from knowing, you know, that if you're not training, your opponent is. That's why Mayweather used to always say that he trained in the middle of the night. You know, he likes the feeling of training while his opponents are sleeping, you know? And I totally understand that. I used to work anyway. But yeah, so like, if you're going through a training camp and what's at the end of it is you might fight one of them, that's a totally different deal. He doesn't need the money, so just take the money out of it. He just fought. He's fought him multiple times, all right? Like, he's got money. This guy's made a lot of dough in the last 12 months. So, you know, like, and think about it like this. Okay, so there's only one outcome that would make sense for him to take this fight. One, you know, obviously removing the money, because I don't think he wants an Israel Adesanya fight right now. I wouldn't if I was him, right? Like, he just fought Izzy and was completely neutralized, right? His game got totally neutralized. And you're talking, he's implementing all the same things that work on everyone else. Like, Vettori beats everyone else. But against Izzy, they were completely ineffective, right? And so, yeah, of course, like, they're professional fighters. Everyone's going to say, like, yeah, I want another crack at that guy. But obviously, if you want another crack at the only guy that has completely pieced you up like that and neutralized your game, you want it under ideal circumstances. You don't want it under a weird training camp where you don't even know if you're going to fight, and then you find out a week before the fight that you actually are fighting, and then you're fighting this dude, you know, the guy who just completely annihilated you. Like, that is not an ideal scenario. And so it really doesn't make any sense for him to do it, especially given that if he does end up in that slot, because Whitaker's the one who's dropped out of a bunch of fights. The reason why it's important to have a backup is because Whitaker has had to drop out of fights multiple times, you know? And it just is what it is. It's like, he had that stomach thing. I think he's dropped out of at least 2 big fights, maybe 3. But, you know, so the likelihood that you're going to end up fighting is that you're going to end up fighting Izzy, because Izzy has dropped out of none fights, right? But that's the only thing that would make sense, is you do the training camp and then Izzy drops out, so you get to fight Whitaker, and then you win the interim belt, and then you get to fight Izzy with an interim belt, so you get a piece of the back end. That's the only reason that would make any sense if you take that fight, right? So, and again, Izzy's never dropped out of a fight, so the likelihood is very little. So yeah, that's that. So now let's talk about who should be the backup, because Vettori is not the backup. And that allows me to kind of put some color behind what this backup slot allows you to do as the organization. So we've talked a bunch about this recently, right? The tier system. Tier 1 fighters. These are the guys that you build all of your events around. These are the guys that drive pay-per-views. The people that where everyone knows their name, where casuals know their name. That's the key. Casuals know their name, and casuals are going to buy the pay-per-views. People like me, people like you, we're going to buy every single event no matter what, right? And so that's what it's all about. And you build all of your cards around, matching tier 1 fighters, right? And you set the fights up hoping your tier 1 fighters win every single time. Every once in a while you get really lucky where a tier 2 fighter beats a tier 1 fighter in a way that elevates them to become another tier 1 fighter. That's what you really want. I mean, ideally you want everyone to be a tier 1 fighter. But Nate Diaz beats Conor, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers, boom, tier 1, Masvidal, dirt naps, we've talked about this a bunch, right? But the thing is that when you're matchmaking, we talked about this also, the structural hierarchy of the belt system has to be intact, which is why Leon Edwards is getting a title shot. I think he's getting a title shot. I actually heard that that's not actually set yet. But so Leon Edwards is getting a title shot because he just kept on winning. Like they don't want to give him a title shot because he's not marketable. He's not going to drive pay-per-view buys. But he just beat everybody. Like he just beat everyone. So there has to be integrity to the belt system. Like a guy can't win 100 straight fights and you're just like, nah, he's not marketable, he never gets a title shot. Otherwise, the belt doesn't mean anything. So the belt has to mean something, but only at the most baseline level that you can get away with, okay? So what the backup thing does for you is you can put a guy who is totally out of position for a title shot in as the backup and then cross your fingers that one of the guys drops out, okay? Because your best case scenario is that one of your high level tier 1 fighters, guys that are really marketable, are the belt holder, like have the title or are challenging for the title. Like that's your best case scenario. That's why when Masvidal came in and fought against Usman, that went from a card that would have sold 400,000, 500,000 pay-per-views to 1.3 million pay-per-views, right? And so it really matters. And if Masvidal had been coming off a loss, that wouldn't have mattered, right? If Nate Diaz stepped in, it would have been the same thing, right? Like there are certain guys where it just doesn't matter what their record is. And so it's inconvenient that certain guys are coming off losses, right? Like, so as an example, let's say you had the Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira fight and you didn't have such a stacked division at 155. You could literally slide Conor McGregor in as a replacement. Like you could just put it out there and if something happens to one of these guys, Conor McGregor is going to train and step in. Now, everyone on earth knows that something would probably happen to one of the fighters, but you're like, oh, well, look, hey, I mean, it's just, if this guy wouldn't have dropped out, Conor wouldn't have got it. So you can't talk trash about him coming off 2 losses and getting the title shot, right? So you can literally put one of your most desired tier 1 guys in that backup slot and then cross your fingers that someone drops, right? So they get to jump the line. This is one of those cheat codes where someone can actually jump the line, right? They put Chandler in the backup spot for Khabib versus Gaethje. Very smart. And, in this case, I think they're best 2 options. So you've got Till and Strickland that are going to fight, and that's a big fight, right? That's a big fight. And I think most people probably would say you should throw one of those guys in there. And you absolutely could make the argument for Darren Till. Like, dude, for sure could make the argument for Darren Till. Actually, Darren Till's probably the number 1 choice. You throw Darren Till in there as the backup, and then you're like, oh my God, please, please, please let one of these guys, drop. Now, if Izzy drops, and then it's Till versus Whitaker again, that's actually not ideal. I didn't even think about that. They'd already fought. But certainly if Whitaker dropped out, which is way more likely than Izzy, having Till slide in there, that sells way more pay-per-views than Whitaker, right? And, but then so my second backup would be Luke Rockhold for sure, because Luke Rockhold's coming off losses, but dude, I am telling you guys, I have said this before, I will say it again, that dude, if there's anyone who is being written off incorrectly, it's Luke Rockhold. That guy's skill set is absolutely bananas. Every time he's lost the same way. Like if someone just can get through his head, dude, we understand, Luke, your skill set, you're incredible, dude. You are so fucking good, it's unbelievable. But the people you're fighting are really fucking good, dude, okay? You can't just fight with your hands down like the most arrogant dude ever, as if they can't hurt you because you're putting it on them. That's his whole energy is he's putting it on them to where he doesn't even need to defend himself. So he doesn't even need, it's like he doesn't want to lower himself to the level where he keeps his hands up, when guys are coming in and he gets clipped with that fucking left hook every time, just because his hands are down. He's kicking somebody with a vicious leg kick, which is a vicious fucking leg kick, and then he eats a fucking shot, Just keep your hands up. If he keeps his hands up, he is unreal. Now, given the last time he got knocked out was pretty brutal. And I mean, who knows what his chin looks like now. But as far as I'm concerned, that guy is danger zone for anyone. Like that, dude. I really honestly believe that guy's talent, skill set is absolutely top tier. He just literally has one fucking thing to fix, which is just fucking attach, just boom, like you're not lowering yourself, to turtle up and not get hit in the face, But yeah, so I would put Rockhold in there because he elevates that. I mean, certainly if Izzy drops off, he's your best option to like kind of save that card because there's still a lot of curiosity around him and he's marketable. And then Till in the event that Till or Rockhold would be my pick. But also Rockhold fits either way, where Till only fits if Whitaker drops off. But Izzy's not going to drop. Unless he got popped for juice with that guy, no. Just kidding. Anyway, that's what I got. I got another video coming today, too. I like them apples. 3 videos in one day. This next one I'm going to do is about Hamzat, Jack Hermanson, and that whole thing. So if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Peace.